Hi, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw this cute British short hair cat using graphite pencils. So grab your tools and let's get started. So these are the art supplies I'm going to use for this drawing, and you can pause the video right here to note them down. I'm already done with this rough outline, and you can find all the references including this outline grid reference on my Patreon profile. Link is in the description. I'm using this A3 size paper from my ordinary drawing pad, and the drawing position area is 11 x 14 inches. So first of all, I'm gonna darken the outline of the ear and also add these directional lines for the indentation. I used the indentation technique first, but after shading the ear, I realized I could have achieved the same result using Mono Zero Eraser. So indentation technique is just an extra step which you can avoid in your drawings if you want to. I'm not going to use it again for the rest of this drawing. Now use your B pencil and fill the ear with the base shade and blend it using a dry brush later on. You can also use a tissue paper for this purpose. Now use your 3B pencil and further darken these shadowed portions by adding these type of faded lines and shades, and lightly blend this layer using a dry brush later on. And by the way, the real-time version of this tutorial is available on my Patreon profile. So if you want to see all these details up close and in real time, you can visit my Patreon profile. Link is in the description. Now for this third darker layer, I'm gonna use this 5B pencil and add these dark faded lines along the indentation lines, just like this. And lightly blend this layer using a dry brush afterwards. Now use your sharp tip Mono Zero Eraser and fill the air with these thin white lines like this. If you use the indenting stylus like I did, you can erase the extra shades from the indentation lines to make this furry texture more visible. You can also use a kneaded eraser to lighten these plain areas like this. Now use your Mono Zero Eraser and erase the shade around the outline using these faded line strokes. Erase it in a way that it makes the remaining shade look like thin hair around the outline, just like this. Now moving on to the second ear, and I'm gonna repeat the same process as I did for the left ear. I did not use the indenting stylus in this one and only used the sharp tip Mono Zero Eraser, and it turned out really good, even better than the left one in my opinion. You can try and see whether the indentation technique works better for you or the Mono Zero Eraser. Now moving on to the forehead portion, and first of all I'm gonna darken the outlines and fill it with a base layer using a B pencil and thoroughly blend it using a dry brush later on. Now use your sharp tip B pencil and fill these shadowed portions with these thin dark lines like this. Notice that both the ends of each single lines are faded, and also notice that each single line is slightly curved depending on the direction of the hair. So don't add these type of thick, straight and blunt lines. Add these type of faded, thin and curved lines. Now very lightly blend these lines using a dry brush and then use a sharp tip 5B pencil and further darken some of these hairs in the shadowed portions where required. Now use your sharp tip Mono Zero Eraser and add these thin white hair in between the dark hair or lines you just added. Make sure you keep the tip of the Mono Zero Eraser sharp at all times, or else you will get thick white hairs which will make your drawings look messy and unrealistic. You can sharp or clean your Mono Zero Eraser by rubbing it on a sandpaper or any rough textured surface like this. And in the end, you can use your sharp tip 3B pencil again and add these thin black lines if required. Now for the eyes, I'm gonna darken the outlines first and then fill this sclera or white portion of the eyeball with a base layer of 3B. And then use your 8B pencil and fill the iris with a plain black shade like this. Also darken the eyelids with the 8B pencil and lightly shade the corners of the sclera with the same 8B pencil, just like this. And lightly blend it using a small dry brush later on. Now use your Mono Zero Eraser and add these highlights or white lines around the iris. And use your electric eraser or jelly roll pen for these sharp white highlights. I'm gonna repeat the exact same shading process for the right eye. And by the way, if you want to learn the basics of drawing first, you can join my course on Udemy. I put my course on sale for 5 days of every month. You can check the link in the description to see if the sale is going on right now and get enrolled as soon as possible. Now for the nose portion, I'm gonna darken the outline using an 8B pencil first and then fill the front or tip of the nose with a 5B pencil. and lightly blend it using a mini dry brush later on. And for the fur on the nose, I'm gonna use a sharp tip mono zero eraser first and fill the area with these tiny white hair. And then use a sharp tip B pencil and add these tiny black hair or dots in between the white ones. You can use your mono zero eraser again for the final touches. Okay, now moving on to the cheeks, and again first of all I'm gonna darken the outline first and fill the area with a base layer, and then use your 3B pencil to further darken the shadowed portions. And then use your sharp tip mono zero eraser to fill the whole area with these thin white hair or fur, just like this. For these dark starting portion of the whiskers, I'm gonna use an 8B pencil to shade them lightly, and then use your sharp tip mono zero eraser to add these tiny white hair in between. And in the end, I'm gonna use a sharp tip pencil like this and add these tiny black hair in between the white ones, especially in the portions where the contrast is high. I'm using this mechanical pencil for this purpose because you don't have to sharpen the lead again and again, but you can use your ordinary B pencil if you don't have a mechanical pencil. I'm gonna repeat the exact same shading process on the right cheek. The only difference is these black whiskers which I added using a sharp tip 3B pencil. Notice the starting portion of the whisker are thick and the ending portions are thinner and lighter. Now moving on to the chin and neck portion, and again I'm gonna fill it with a base layer first and then use a 3B pencil for the second dark layer of the fur. You can shade this whole neck portion at once if you want. I just shaded the half portion to get a cool thumbnail shot. Now for the chin, I'm gonna fill it with these thin white hair using a sharp tip mono zero eraser, and then use an 8B pencil to darken the lips or these junction lines between the cheeks and chin. You can use this faded line technique to shade this area. Now the neck portion is a little bit blurry and out of focus, so I'm going to add these white hairs using a thicker tip mono zero eraser like this, and also use a dry brush in between to lightly smudge or blend some of these white hairs if required. You can use a 3B or 5B pencil to darken the shadowed portions if they get lighter in the erasing process. And in the end, you can use your mono zero eraser to add these light outlines of the whiskers. And then use your electric razor or gel roll pen to further brighten the whiskers. And then repeat the same process for the right whiskers as well. Now for the final touches, I'm gonna erase the extra shades along the outlines and then use a 2H pencil to add the small and light black hair along the outline. And with this last step, we are done with this hyper realistic cat drawing. It takes so much time and efforts to create these tutorials, so please leave a like if you enjoyed this one. It helps me a lot as an artist. So if you want to get the real-time tutorial of this drawing, you can visit my Patreon profile. And if you want to learn the basics of drawing first, you can join my course on Udemy. All the links are in the description down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.